Hi, good evening, everyone. I am Dinesh from CSC, and I welcome you all to the next session, and it may be the last session on Unit 1. So, in today's session, we are going to discuss about the some example programs on files. In the previous session, we have completed the introduction regarding files in Java programming language. As we studied earlier in the session, that the files in Java programming are divided into the file classes. File classes are divided into two categories, right? Byte-oriented classes and character-oriented classes. So if the file name, right? If the file name ends with stream, right? If the file name ends with stream, those classes are called as byte oriented classes, and the file name whose file name ends with reader or writer are called as character oriented classes. So among the division, even the byte oriented classes are divided into two categories. Character oriented classes are also divided into two categories. Here, if we have input in the file name, then these classes are used to read the data, right? If we have input in the file name, these classes are used to read the data. And if we have output in the file and the class name, then these classes are used to write some data into the file, right? So the classes, the class names ends with stream comes under byte oriented classes, and at the same time, if the same classes have input, then the classes are used to read the data, and if the same classes have output in their names, then those classes are used to write the data. And coming to the other hand side, if the classes contains reader or writer, then these types of classes comes under character oriented classes. So here in the character oriented classes, if the file name ends with reader, then these type of classes are used to read the data, right? These type of classes are used to read the data. And if the file name ends with writer, these type of classes are used to write the data. Here what all we have to do is we just have to remember all these names. If it is a stream, then it is a byte oriented classes. If it is a reader or writer, then it is a character oriented classes. If the stream contains input, then it is used to read the data from the file. And if the stream contains output, it is used to write the data into the file, right? So here in the next slide, all things are covered in the previous session. Even though these things are covered in the previous session, we need to remember all those things in order to write the program. So I will show one more slide here. So you can find here byte stream, and that byte oriented classes are divided into input stream and output stream. As I said earlier, these things are used to read the data, and these things are used to write the data, right? So you can find here buffered, it is the name of the class, buffered input stream. It is stream, so it is called as byte. It is input, so it is used to read the data. Here buffered output stream, array output stream, data output stream, object output stream. Here you can find output in all the names. So that's why these things are used to write the data into the file, right? Let us see another one, how the character oriented classes are divided. So you can find here, right? You can find here, if it is a reader, right? If it is a reader at the end, then these things are used to read the data from the file. And if it is a writer at the end, then these things are used to write the data into the file. You can see here, 5D writer, file writer, buffered writer, input stream reader, file reader, pushback reader. So these all classes are used to read. The classes whose names ends with reader, these all classes are used to read the data from the file, and the classes whose names ends with writer are classes used to write the data into the file. So this is the description regarding byte-oriented and character-oriented classes in files. So let us have a look at a couple of programs on byte-oriented and character-oriented classes. I just copied some programs from the web. So I will explain those programs. You can get some idea regarding these programs, how to read and how to write the data into the file and from the file. So let us start the things here, right? So here, I don't want to confuse you. Just use star, right? So the first name, import space java.io.star, which is trying to import a package. The name of the package is IO package, which means input output package, right? So, and then I have defined a class with the name file reader example. So my class name is here is file reader example, and I am defining the main method in Java, public static void main string args. Along with that, I have added something called as throws exception. So when we are dealing with unit number 2 or unit number 3, we get a concept called as exceptions. So in order to deal exceptions in programming language, we need to use the exception handling mechanism. So this exception handling mechanism is having 5 types of keywords: try, catch, throw, throws, and finally. So I will explain the usage of these 5 keywords and how they can be used in the program and how they will handle the exceptions that was raised in the program and how they will help the program to run successfully. All these things I will explain it in the unit number 2 or unit number 3, right? Just keep one thing in your mind in order to understand this particular program. So there are 5 keywords for exception handling. The 5 keywords are try, catch, throw, throws, finally. Here I have used one of the exception handling keywords, that is throws keyword, right? So let us see. Throws exception in the sense, so in case if the body of the main method is raising an exception, and with that exception the program will not close suddenly in the middle of execution. The program will continue its execution by handling that exception, because we have mentioned we are expecting an exception to be thrown in order to execute this code. I will explain all the things in later. Don't mix your mind with some confusion. Just keep the things. Throws is one of the keyword which is used to handle exceptions, right? And then here, what I want to do is I want to read the content from the file. I want to read the content from the file. So in order to read the content from the file, there are 2 things, right? In order to read the content from the file, we can read it by using input stream, and we are working on files. We are working on files, so we have to make use of file input stream. You can find here. We have to make the use of file input stream, or we can read the data. If we want to read the data by using character oriented classes, then we have to use a class name called as file reader. Just you have to satisfy yourself. First, you have to satisfy whether you want to read the data from the file by using a byte oriented class or by using a character oriented class. If you are ready to read the data from the file by using character oriented class, then create an object for file reader class. And if you are ready to read the data from the file by using byte oriented classes, then use file input stream class, right? So there will be only one change. If I want to read the data, right, if I want to read the data from the file by using byte oriented classes, just I need to create an object for file input stream class, right? You can find here, you can find, you can pass the same file name here, right? So this particular statement, which was shown in the green color, is the way of reading the data from the file by using byte oriented classes. How I am saying it as a byte oriented class? Because it contains the word stream at the end. How I am saying it is going to read the data? Because it contains input. So if the file name contains, or if the class name contains stream, then it belongs to byte oriented classes. If the class name contains input, then it is used to read the data from it. And similarly, if we want to read the data from the file by using the character oriented classes, so we have character oriented classes. The class names ends with reader or writer are called as character oriented classes. So the class names which ends with reader or writer, then they comes under character oriented classes. So the class names having reader are used to read the data. The class names having writer are used to write the data. So here I want to read the data from the file. I want to read the data in the sense I need to use file reader. So I have used the file reader class. Yes, I am deleting this one. I just have written this one in order to explain the things, right? And then see what I am doing here. After creating an object for file reader class, I have passed a file with the name. The name of the file is C colon users with desktop. On the desktop, I have a file called as ece.txt. I want to read the content of that file. So let us see the ece.txt on desktop. Here it is. If I open the ece.txt on desktop, so it is having the content hi dot space good morning some 4 dots. This is the content of the file ece.txt. So I want to read this content not on the desktop. I want to read this content as an output to my Java program. Right? So here what I'm doing is I am defining a variable I. It is an integer variable. What I am doing is while I equal to fr dot read. Fr means it is an object which is containing the content of ece.txt. So the content of ece.txt was kept in fr with this statement. So now I am reading from fr. I am reading from fr. Each and every time I am reading from fr, I am storing it in I. And from I am checking the file from starting point to not equal to -1 in the sense end of file. So here what I am trying to do is I want to scan the data from this particular point to end of the file. So here -1 represents end of the file. So what we are trying to write is read not equal to -1. So we are trying to read the file from starting point to end of the file. So up to end of the file, we are trying to read, right? So after reading the data from starting point to the end of the file, each and every time I am keeping the data in the variable I, where I is an integer variable. Here the data is of character types. So the character will be converted into integer and it will be stored in I. Now, if I want to print again the character, I need to convert the integer variable as character. It is called as typecasting. We have all studied this typecasting in the previous concepts. right? In the, I think in the 7th or 8th class, we have studied about type conversion and casting. And then I am closing the file. Keep one thing in your mind, right? While working with the files, I need to open the file, right? And then I can perform reading or writing or any other operations, and then I have to close the file. So opening of the file is done by creating an object for file reader or file writer or file input stream or file output stream. So reading and writing of data is carried out by this particular statement. And then after performing the required task, we need to close the file. So closing of the file can be carried out by using close method. So this is how we can read the data from the file and we can print the data on the output screen, right? So let us compile this one first. Compiling this one, there are no errors. Now I'm going to run this one. If I run this one, you can find here it has printed hi, good morning, 4 dots. So you can match it with the actual content of the code. Hi, good morning, 4 dots. So this program read the data from the file called as ece.txt and the data was printed on the output screen. Right. In the same way, you can read the data from any file. You can read the data from any file. Right. For example, if we are having another file, for example, let us say I am having another file. Suppose it is also text document. My file name is some CSC, right? CSC. In the CSC, I am printing something called as computer science and engineering, right? So now, what I want to do is, I want to read the content of the file by using this program. Here the file name is on the desktop and the file name is CSC. Let us save the code, compile the code first and then run the code. If I run the code, you can observe that it has printed, it has read the data from the file csc.txt and the data is computer science and engineering. Right, this is the way how we can read the data from the file by using file reader class. Right? Next one, let us see how to write the data into the file, right? So here, similar to the last one, I don't want to confuse you. Let us delete these things. Just a second. Yeah, right. So here I want to import all the classes of the package, so I can use star, right? So here what I want to do is I have defined a class name with the right to fill, right to file, right? And then I have used the main method public static void main string args. So inside the main method, I am using try and catch. As I said earlier, in order to perform exception handling mechanism, we need to go for try, catch, throw, throws, finally keywords. So here also they are doing some exception handling mechanism. It will be explained in the next chapters, don't worry. In order to explain it, I need to explain what is an exception, what are the types of exceptions, and how exceptions are generated, and how exceptions can be handled, and what are the different keywords in order to handle those exceptions, and what is the use of each and every keyword, and what is the syntax of the keyword, and how that keyword can be embedded into the Java program, and how that keyword will behave when it was embedded in the Java program. All these things I need to explain. It will take 2 or 3 classes. So here we are dealing with files. So if we go on explaining about exceptions, it will turn our class to other side, right? So keep those things in your mind. Try, catch, throw, throws, and finally are the 5 keywords which are used for exception handling, right? So let us start from the next line of the program. Here, what I want to do is, I want to write something into the file. I want to write something into the file. So writing something into the file can be carried out in two ways. I can use byte oriented classes, or I can use character oriented classes. We all are very familiar with these names. We have already seen these names from the last two classes. If we have stream, it is byte oriented classes. If we have reader or writer, it is character oriented classes. Right? What I am saying here, I want to read the data from the, no. I want to write the data into the file. I want to write that. In the last previous program, we have read the data from the file. Just read the data from the file. Now what I want to do is, I want to write the data into the file. So writing the data into the file, writing in the sense, I can use writer. I am working on files, so I can use file writer. At the same time, if I want to write the data by using byte oriented classes, I have file output stream. As I said earlier, if the file name consists of output, then the file is used to write the data, right? So here I can use file writer, or I can use file output, stream, right? I can use file writer, or I can use file output stream, right? So this is the name of the object. File output stream of the same file name. So these are the two ways, right? So this is the way of writing the data into the file by using byte oriented classes, and it is the way of writing the data into the file by using character oriented classes, right? Now let us look at, in the previous program, you can find here we have used the method called as read method. It will read the data. Here, what we are going to do is, we want to write the data. So we have to use the write method. So here, this particular file is opened in the space called as my writer. And with that my writer, I am going to write in the my writer. What I am going to write, files in Java might be tricky, but it is fun enough. So the files, working with the files in Java program might be somewhat confusing, might be somewhat hard when compared with the other programs, right? Might be a little bit difficult. Even though they are difficult, even though they are hard, even though they are very hard to remember, it is very fun. It gives you a lot of fun when you try to work with the files, right? That's what I want to write it in the this ec.txt. And then, as I said earlier, if you want to work with the files, we need to open the file, we need to perform read or write operation, and we need to close the file. So the first statement itself, it is used to open a file, and this statement is used to perform write operation into the file, and this one is used to close the file, right? So for reading or writing, for any purpose, first we need to open the file, and then we need to read or write according to our need, and then after completion of our usage, we need to close the file by using the close function. And then I'm printing successfully wrote into the file. So this one will be printed on the output screen, and it is an exception handling code. As I said earlier, I will explain it later. Just I will use a little bit hint. So I want to write something into the file. For example, I want to write some data into the file. At the time, the file is not allowing to write the data. At the time, if the file is not allowing the user to write the data, at that particular point of time, it will raise an exception. Some error will be occurred. and that error will be identified by the try block, and that error will be handled by the catch block, and it will print on the output screen an error occurred. If we don't use this try and catch, if the program is unable to write the data into the file, then the program will suddenly close in the middle of execution. We don't understand why this program is closed. We don't know what is the reason behind the sudden closing of this particular program execution. So in order to understand why the program has been closed in the middle of the execution, we need to maintain the exception handling mechanism. So try block is used to identify the exception. Catch block is used to handle the exception. So in case, so this is the code of try block. If any error has been occurred in these four statements, then the program will not close suddenly. The program will start executing from the catch block, because it identifies and it executes the catch block. If we don't have this try and catch block, if we got any error in these four lines, the program will go off suddenly. The program will stop execution suddenly. We don't understand why it has been closed, right? So this try and catch is belongs to the exception handling. I will explain it in detail in the future classes, right? So let us save the code, compile the code first, and then run the code. So it has given the output successfully wrote to the file. Successfully wrote to the file. Now you can go to ece.txt and you can verify whether the data has been updated in the file or not. So it is ece.txt. Let us open this ece.txt. If you open this ece.txt, previously we have hi good morning text in ece.txt. Now it has been updated with the given text in the program. In the program, we have given the following text: files in Java might be tricky, comma, but it is fun enough, exclamatory mark. Right? So for example, let us see with another thing. Let us write something called as electronics and communication engineering is good. So let us compile this code and run this code, right? And now we don't have refresh here. Just close the file and open the file again. Open the ec.txt file again. You can find here electronics and communication is good. So the given file has been updated. You can find csc.txt. csc.txt contains computer science and engineering. Now I want to change the data in the csc.txt with some other thing. I want to update the data with the electronics and communication engineering is good, right? Now compile the code, just run the code. Now you can find here, you can open the csc.txt. So the thing is updated here. You can find the name csc.txt and the thing is electronics and communication engineering is good. Right, this is how we can read the data from the file. We can write the data into the file. Now my question is how to copy the content of one file to another file. If I want to copy the content of one file to another file, simply what I can do is here I have opened the file csc.txt. Just a second, I will explain it. So for example, let us consider this ec.txt contains a code called as our college name. So our college name is the content of ec.txt. Now what I want to do is I want to copy the content of ec.txt to csc.txt. So in CSC we have electronics and communication engineering, but in EC we have Chamberlain Engineering College. I want to copy this code into csc.txt. So let us look at how to copy the content of ECE into CSC, right? So just open I want to write into CSC. I'm copying this one. Just a second. I'm copying this one. I want to read from ECE and I want to write into CSC. That's why I have taken file writer for CSC and file reader for EC. Now, each and every time, uh, I want to write into my writer dot write of care of I. Yes, right. Save the code, compile the code. Just a second. Just use I. It is successfully compiled. Now run the code. So it is successfully run. Now let us check whether the content of CSC is updated or not. So it was written with nothing. It was deleted, I think. Just a second. Just a second. Save the code again. Compile the code. So there are no errors. Now run the code. So it is successfully run. Now let us check whether the csc.txt contains shape role engineering college or not. We don't find it. Just a second. What we want to do is we need to close the second file also. Close the second file. Right. Now save the code and then compile the code. Now run the code. Right. So it is successfully run. Now let us check whether the get the shape role in the as out. Still we don't get the output. Okay, no problem. I will check it later and I will explain it later. And this is the way how we can read and write the data and copy the data from and into the files by using file input stream and file byte oriented classes and character oriented classes. And I request you to please practice the programs and I request you to please practice more programs because I don't have time. Still we are in the unit number 1 only. We need to complete up to unit 3 from the till the last week, but it is almost all because of lack of time and because of the late start, we are very slow, right? So from the next class, I will start unit number 2, that is from Monday. And if you have any doubts regarding this first unit or regarding today's session or regarding the previous sessions, you can just make a comment or you can just text me. And I really thank each and every listener for being here. And we will meet you in the next session with unit number 2. Thank you once again and thanks a lot.